Hi, welcome back. I'm here again working on another video for you. I'm back from my vacation and I discovered I have the need to flex a little bit my quilting muscle. Hopefully I did not forget much during the 2 weeks break. I couldn't take any quilting with me. There was no space to take my hand quilting project. I was focusing more on embroidery, which was nice, but I missed my quilting workout. I missed my creativity with the projects, and today I decided to start with something very classical. So it's 4x4, so 16 patch block consisting of half square triangles. We have one white background and we have only 4 half square triangle patches with very dark gray, looking almost like black in this light, and the rest is done in gray. So it's very classical, very toned down block. It will make either a very nice small pillow or a nice wall hanging, depending on the final result of the quilting. And I am actually planning to put a diagram for it later on as a PDF. I will inform you in my comments when this will be available for download. And to quilt that one, and by the way, I used just several 5-inch squares to do that. So if you have some leftovers, this is a very nice project to use them for. And for quilting, because everything is gray, this time I will also use gray polyester thread. Despite the fact that sometimes they can be problematic for me, I like using them because they have this nice shine. This one looks almost kind of graphite-like. It's a little bit darker than other gray threads, but it shows better on the white background, and I like that. But still, I will keep it toned down. So now let's see how I will quilt it. And by the way, I am planning now to have a bit more practical content as well, and I think in the near future I will focus a lot on half square triangle blocks and what we can use them for and how we can quilt them, because with there are so many more possibilities to use half square triangles and how we can combine them to create incredible secondary patterns. So more content on that will definitely come. And now let's start quilting. When quilting with has SHT based blocks, we always have to keep in mind that we have those like here, the points where it's several seams are meeting, and those points are very thick. And I prefer to avoid that, despite the fact that I actually ironed the block before very carefully. And I do not always iron my blocks, but the ones with SHTs definitely, because I want those seams to be as flat as possible. And that's why I tend to frame some subsections with an offset of 1/4 of an inch, simply to avoid the thick seams, because my machine, or I don't like when the needle hits this very thick spot, and it happened to me a few times, actually 2 or 3 times, that my needle broke when I did that, and it's scary and not really pleasant experience. So I tend to avoid this place. And now what I will do, I'm starting in the middle and I am framing my middle block. The 4 triangles are meeting here, creating a square, and I want to enhance this effect. And the best way to do that, if you want your seams to kind of disappear, is to quilt this block as one with an overall design. And you can do so many different things here. You can just quilt with ruler, you can mix ruler and free motion quilting, and I simply missed quilting my swirly daisies, and that's what I will do right now for this middle section. So we start with a small swirl, go back, and then we will just quilt small plums, treating it kind of like a small feather. And this mixture of tight swirl in the middle and a bit more fluffy plum will give us a very nice contrasting texture. And this is one of the reasons why I love this design so much. By the way, thank you so much for all the wishes and comments under my last communication. That was so nice of you. I tried to answer every single comment I got. And thank you so much for watching and subscribing. Also during the time when I was not active. It means a lot to me. Just to frame the flower, and I have to go a little bit closer so you can see it a bit better. Let me check if I can set the light a bit differently. I have several different... Nope, the other one was better. I have like 3 different sources of light, so the thread color is matching quite well, but in this case I wanted something more toned down. This is something like that I would quilt one of my standard projects. Not everything has to be high contrast. Sometimes it's good to keep the things a little bit more harmonious, despite the fact I love high contrast quilting. So we have to go back there for a moment. I just wanted to finish this one. And we still have here this little corner to fill, and it's good to do that immediately, otherwise we may forget, and then we have weird looking space there in the corner, and we don't want that. We are almost done here in the middle, and that will be our eye catcher. What I'm doing here, I'm cheating right now, because I had my echo line meeting exactly my outline of the block. And what I will do now, because I have this weird looking space here, that it's not quilted, it's too small to fit another flower, but I have to fill it because I want to move to the side and finish this section. So what I will do is I will add here another swirl because it's an element of the design and I can fit there very nice, and I can go back on the outside, and here I have to reduce the tension a little bit, and here I can go on with the previous echo line like nothing happened. Now I will try to fill as much of this space as possible so I can finish this section off. Of course, you can use any filler you like and you love most, and in this way you can fill this middle do it any way you like. The point is, in this way I decided for free motion quilting design. You can also go with a ruler design, but that's completely different character of the block. I decided to break off my thread because now I will go on the white blocks, and one way would be to go directly in the middle here in the corner, but because my seams are here very thick, what I will do is actually I will give it an offset, so I'm placing my ruler that the both edges are touching the seam, and in this way I don't have to measure anything. I am just using my ruler as my measure tool. Let's lock the seam. And let's quilt a simple. Now I'm simply placing my ruler exactly on the seam, so I don't have to mark anything. When working with rulers, you have to take your time. Unless you're a master quilter, then you can, you know, flip it around like ninja tools. I always admire that. Sometimes I can do that, but I don't know, when I watch some videos, I don't know how much of it it's the real speed and how much of it it's actually accelerated. So instead of going for this super hyper effect, I decided to go slow. So now we have a smaller triangle, and because I want to keep it simple, I will just fill it with dot to dot lines, because it is all about how we can quilt it fast and effectively. Of course, we can always mark the lines here in the middle and have it perfect, but it looks good enough as it is. The disadvantage of this approach is that you have to simply break the line, break the thread quite often to fill it, but I prefer that to breaking my needle when I work in the corner, in this very thick corner. Additional difficulties is that I could try to do that, but then you need extra force to move the needle and the roll, to move the sandwich from under the ruler. My ruler foot, I'm sorry, that's under the foot. Simply, I was switching the languages so often the last 2 weeks that I have sometimes problems. When you're working in such a thick seam as a starting point, it is possible to do that, but you have to use some force to move the sandwich. And then it can happen that your first stitch will have much greater length than your other stitches, and actually I don't like the look of it because it is different than the others and it attracts attention, but it also creates the weak spot in my quilt, because such long stitch will be the first to break down. So if I can, I avoid it. So this pattern kind of floats in the middle of my white triangle. And I'm adding those two lines here. And I'm ending a quilt line and breaking the line. I'm usually just stitching it in place with a few stitches, or move back and forth a little bit on the previously sewn line, and it works for me. Well, sometimes when I want to be really good, I pull this thread up and I'm sorry, I have to do that again. My sandwich moved, so I have to pull it out and start again. And but as patient as I am not that patient to finish every stitch from and bury my threads through the top and then cut them off. In my 7 years long activity as a quilter, it happened to me that sometimes the quilting stitches broke, but it was never in the place where I finished the stitch. This is actually the most difficult one to tear apart, when I sometimes have to pick the stitches out because, for example, my thread broke too often and simply the line didn't look good anymore. So if my quilting thread broke, it was never there where I started or ended. It was always somewhere there where the either the thread was weaker, or when the stitch was a little bit too long. And sometimes simply the thread was not so good. That happens as well. Okay, and now just let's move on to the quilted line with small stitches, and then we can finish it. And now so the fourth one will be done exactly the same way. And now let's move to the elements here. And again, as with everything else here, I have to stay now consistent. I have to frame my section I want to quilt together. And that's additional reason why it is good to use this internal echo line, because in this way it's all about divide and quilt. But in this case I am joining those blocks together, and I am defining it as my subsection I want to quilt with one pattern. And I already kind of did that. I defined that the gray ones are filled with overall patterns. In this case I will just use swirls because this is too narrow to quilt with. Maybe I could fit one or two flowers here and then fill the rest with the swirls. So let's do that to have a continuity. So in the narrower spaces I will just put swirls. I don't have to hurry. There is no reason for that. And here I have a bit more space, and here I can fit one flower, for example. And here will be just swirls because there is very little space, and I am still taking it easy as I didn't quilt for some time. Another one. And like that, section by section. We are filling our block. And you can see I'm taking enough breaks for chatting and explaining. Here we will do the same. So we have, now I did a mistake, you know, small one. So I have a 1/4 inch here that it's left off to finish the block. So I have to actually start here to add to continue with adding the, this to have the same effect like I had in the inside triangles. So actually what I will do now, I will cheat a little bit. I will start directly at the top. And I will quilt this seam line. And in this way I will know where to start exactly. So now I know, and now I will just lift my needle up, lift my foot up, and then I can pull my bottom thread with my sandwich, and in this way I don't have to start and stop by cutting the thread. In this case, I can just move a little bit, and now I can lock the seam here, and I can continue with the actual pattern. And everything what I will do now here, it's just to quilt several dot to dot lines, keeping the background light and filled with the analogous geometric design. I know that in most of my YouTube videos I quilt very densely. I like to call it baroque quilting because it looks like I'm afraid of any free space. But if I would quilt a blanket, a large quilt, or a table runner, I would actually stick to such simple designs because the character and the function of the quilting is then completely different. It is to add, first to hold the 3 layers together, and then it is to add a little bit of texture and the look of symmetry. And for that the dot to dot designs are perfect, because if we have the impression of symmetry, then we will also have the impression of perfection. And it is illusion game. So right now I will simply cut off this thread on top and then later on the bottom, and it is like nothing happened. And now simply that you let me take a look at the time. What we have left is I would like to quilt with you still this section, so repeat this design and then focus on the 2 corners here. And after that I will stop recording and just show you how the finished quilt looks like. So again, we are starting in the corner with the offset of 1/4 inch from both sides, pulling the bottom thread up. This is one of the things I really insist also when I'm teaching, because then the back side also looks so much better. Wrong roller. Happens. I'm still a bit tired after the travel, I am noticing. The vacation was great, but the traveling by car for 8 hours, it is a little bit draining. But the vacation was great. I really enjoyed it. Even if at the end I was really missing my machine. It is addiction. But whom I am talking to? And again, some nice small tight swirls. If you want to keep it even cleaner and simpler, you can use dot to dot designs in every single triangle, and I am pretty sure it will also look very good. that would be the let's quilt it and be done with it option, because sometimes we do not have time and it has to be fast, and sometimes the fabric is so heavy with pattern that it's not really, doesn't make sense to quilt it with anything that it's more time consuming, because it would be not visible anyway. And this is actually one of the more important aspects of quilting strategy. Selection of pattern should be also influenced by the selection of the fabrics you have in your quilt. In cases of heavy patterned fabric that has lots of gold thread, it's beautiful and yummy in its own right. It doesn't really make sense to use time-consuming patterns that will be not visible. But if you have solid fabrics, simple geometrical forms, lots of negative space, then you can go and just quilt whatever you want and create this secondary art. Not say secondary art, it sounds wrong, like not really good one. The art in the kinda on the background, and add another dimension. I think that's what I wanted to say. Supporting design, okay, that's also not good enough. So now you can already see how this pillow is developing, or wall hanging, and now I will show you once more at the end how to deal with this element. It is a corner element, and there it is really, because it is a corner and we have to secure the both sides, it is really important that first we will mark those imaginary seam lines that are defining actually the borders of our block. So this is the part which will actually disappear when we will sew the pillow together, so we will not see this line here. And now we will just again lift the needle, lift the foot, move the sandwich under, pulling the bottom thread with it, secure the stitch by stitching a few times in place, and we will go on with our very simple dot to dot design. We had 2 lines on the other elements, so let's be consistent. And we were done with this element as well. So now, because this is, I quilted now with you, showed you how to quilt every single of the elements, I will just finish it before I will make the video public. so you can also see how it will look like when I am done. So you will see the effect in a moment. The little quilting project is done, and I really like it how it looks like. It wasn't complicated quilting. I used only 2 designs. You can see the swirly daisies with some extra swirls in the middle and offset dot to dot design. So by offset I mean I added an echo line 1/4 of an inch from the seam line on both sides. And I combined the different elements of the block to create bigger parts by using the quilting design. So immediately you can see how it enhances the unity of the elements. And despite the fact that I used half square triangles all over, it disappears. So this kind of quilting enhances the secondary pattern of your block, and it merges the different elements together. And the dot to dot design here on in those elements actually frames the central element. Then we have the second layer, the kind of star-like, as the second kind of frame. And then we have the flying geese-like element that created by putting the half square triangles of the same color next to each other. It kind of points us to the center from the 4 sides. And then the final dot to dot design in the corner closes it off. This is how it looks like in its totality. And despite the fact that I used very neutral colored thread, the texture makes it looking really interesting indeed. And I think everything what I will do now to finish it off is to add some very dark, almost black binding, and it will be ready to go, for example, on the wall or with the black back side on a pillow. I am still not sure what I will do with it, but it's done, and it was relatively fast, and I really like how it looks like. I hope so do you, and I hope you had fun watching this video. Thank you so much, and hopefully see you soon.